Well, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to tie up a really successful Euro style fly. It's a take on the Howard Croston's Full Metal Jacket. A bit of a variant. The main difference is I've not actually added any of the solder to the back of the Jig Off bead. Been a massively productive fly for me both in the UK and on the Sarna in Ribnick. Mainly use it as a point fly. Tend to tie these up in 4mm and 3.5mm. So I'm going to tie a 4mm one today. So I pre-glue all my Jig Off beads onto the hook before I start tying. So I'll do up half a dozen, something like that, before I get into tying them all up. This one is on an 18 Partridge shore hold. So I'm going to come in with some UTC grey brown in 70 denier. And we're just going to tie that down to the base of the hook. And then nip off our tag. And then next thing we come in with some Coq de Leon. This is in medium Pardo. So get a few fibres of that, pulling them away from the stem to line up all the tips. We don't want these too long, so I'm going to tie these in a little bit shorter than the shank. So just counter spin a thread to flatten it up to make this a little bit easier to get in. Making sure it's right on the back of the shank. If they're a little bit long, just pull those butts to get them to the right length. Happy with that. I'm going to tie that back down to the bead now. And then we just nip out the butts, all the while counter spinning to flatten a thread to create a nice slim body. And then the next material I'm going to come in with is a cinnamon Goose Biot. So these have got a convexed edge. I'm going to tie that facing me so that I get a nice rib on the fly. Like that. And then back down. So now I want to create a slight taper. So again, always counter spinning my thread to keep it flat, to create that nice smooth body and get that taper profile that I'm looking for. Just straighten that hook a bit. Not too much, just a nice small taper to the bead. So that should do us there. And I'm just going to take some super glue. Just belt and braces, make sure this Biot will never come undone. Just a few dabs of glue behind, like that. And then get a hackle pliers. And you'll notice if you tie that curved edge towards you, when you wrap the same way you would your thread, you're going to create this nice segmentation. So just open turns. You're going to take that up as far as you can to the back of the bead. So slightly opening the turns as we go. And then lock that off. So a couple of extra turns behind to make sure it's nice and secure. And then I pull the Biot in front and a few turns in front of it. And then just nip out these butt ends. So a few extra wraps on top just to flatten that down. And then the next material I'm going to come in with is some Veniards Tinsel. So this is in gold and green. So if you turn this with the gold side up, that will leave the green on the bottom. Therefore, when we pull this back over, it'll be the green that's exposed. So make sure we've got enough there. Yeah, that's about right. So a few wraps, make sure that's nice and secure. And then once again, counter spin a thread, because we're going to split this thread now. So I'm going to get a bodkin, just flatten my thread, and split it in the middle. And then the next thing I've done is I've taken some fox squirrel, and I've just cut that and put it into a dubbing dispenser. I cut it off with a razor, with a shaving razor. So get a few fibres of those. We're going to pop those into the split thread. Now you don't want too much of this, otherwise you'll create a really bulky collar. We only want a small amount. So if you close your split thread too, you can actually now manipulate these. Make sure they're all nice and level. And then we're going to spin this up. So you spin this clockwise, and then what you'll notice is it'll start to tighten. And as it tightens, it'll spin those fibres into the thread for you. So I'm just going to get a dubbing brush and just give that a quick brush to get some of those under fur out. I want this to be quite buggy. So then it's just a case of wrapping that, and I tease these back as I'm going, like so. Get all those fibres pushing backwards. And then we're going to take a tinsel, pull it forward, just pull any of those fibres that are pushing to the front backwards, just preen them back, and take a nice tight turn in to the back of the bead there. A couple of extra securing wraps, a couple in front, and then we can nip that tinsel out. So you create a little flap here at the back. So what I always do is just push that forward. The final step's just to put some UV on. So I'm going to take some Raidzap UV. This is the flex. So if there's any movement of the fly, this will actually flex with it. First of all, though, we're going to tie this off. So turn the fly upside down, because I want my whip finishes, the cut to be at the back of the bead here. So it just makes for a neater fly. So you've no sort of tag end hanging out the bottom. You can nip that out like so. And then I always reposition my hook here, because gravity is your friend when you're using UV. So what we can do is, if we create a slight slope, as we put this UV in, it'll fall into place for us. So I just preen these down to make sure I don't get any of the UV on the fox squirrel, and just drop some of this in behind the bead, just manipulating it over the tinsel to create a nice wing bud. So turn the fly upside down then, and then we're going to zap it with our torch. Like that. And then that's the fly completed. So great point fly for both trout and grayling. You know, very natural looking, not too blingy, just with a little bit of flash behind that collar. Thanks for tuning in.